If you're watching this means you're watching the video as opposed to being here in person or joining us online. I went ahead and started recording early because sometimes I have issues with recording not working. So I just thought it would be best to do that. It is currently 7:28 a.m. according to my clock. So if you're watching this, well, don't do it yet, but yeah, let me back up. So throughout this lecture, I will give a series of attendance words as usual, or attendance phrases. Since you are watching the video, you will be required to write down those attendance words or those attendance phrases, whatever they may be. But additionally, since unlike the people who are going to join online or the people who are here in person, for you, you have one extra step to jump through, one extra hoop to jump through. You also need to say a screenshot, or not say a screenshot, take a screenshot. For example, right now, bear with me for a second. I'm going to give you the first attendance word. So the first attendance word, for those of you who are watching the video, is going to be announcements and reminders. So since you're watching the video, you're going to take a screenshot right now because I just said announcements and reminders. And that's at the end of this lecture, you're going to send me an email with the screenshot and with the list of words. So that's how that works. For those of you who are watching this video right now. That being said, again, if you're watching the video, I started recording early. So you can go ahead and skip the video ahead about 30 minutes because it is now 7:29 a.m. There's no need for you to sit around and watch essentially nothing. So see you in 30 minutes if you're watching the video. Sorry about that.
Oh no, I didn't even know you were recording. My bad.
Yeah, that's what I should get like an on-air light, but that's a lot more efficient.
I'll be more over it next time.
Oh no, it doesn't. You didn't do anything wrong. Don't worry about it. It's important to me. I would have put up something that says, "Hey, I'm recording, so be careful." It's not that important. Get these going here. Let's see. How's your first couple days of class been?
Not bad.
Good. What other classes are you taking this semester?
I'm taking speech, math,
Okay.
or intro to algebra, I think.
Okay.
And there's another one. There's another one. There's another one coming up that I am going to be taking. Sorry, I'm still out of it.
No, I get it. I haven't had my coffee yet. It's another reason I came in early so I could get my coffee, get it woken up.
Oh, are we having math group this Wednesday?
Nope.
No, it's next week, isn't it?
Yeah. This Wednesday and the last Wednesday of class are the only ones that we don't have.
Okay. Thank you.
Glad you asked. Put that up on the reminders. I don't remember if you told me this, but did your parents also move back here to West Virginia, or are they still in North Carolina?
They're both in West Virginia.
Okay.
They're no longer in service.
I think I do remember you telling me that. Medical discharge for your mom, maybe.
In medical discharge for my father.
That was it, yeah.
Yeah, I think he had 100% because of his heat stroke.
That's right. Yeah. Whoops. FaceTime's due today. But see what I mean? I'm not working on yet either. I said the pre-lab is due today on there. It's due Friday.
I'm right there with you.
My kids don't start school until tomorrow, so I'm still getting up at the same time, but I'm not forced to like be with it because I'm not getting them ready to get out the door by 7 a.m. So starting tomorrow, I'm gonna be more with it because I have to be. Today I just kind of parted around the house nice and slowly and got ready at my own leisure. Kind of nice.
Also, got
Do you have any assignments in your speech class yet?
Not yet, but I definitely be good assignments for math.
Math is, that's gonna be a tough one. Math to me is a lot like music or sports, right? So you could like study a book on how to play a tuba, for example. Oh, it's a B flat, and you can learn. And if you know, like, all right, that's what these notes are. But it's different to get a sheet of music and then play it. Like that takes practice. So I think math is the same way. You can learn it, but you got to practice it for you to be able to be good at it.
Oh, I like math. I enjoy math.
That's good. And enjoying it's a big thing.
I think the only subject I hate with very passion is English.
Is it all the writing, or what is it about that you don't like?
Yeah, that's the right. I can be posted on that. I'm gonna complain about it if it's work that needs to be done, I want to get it done.
It's a good skill. I mean, depending on where your life takes you, you might need it in the future. Like I wish I would have taken it a little bit more serious. Because obviously, as a professor, I'm writing a lot of stuff, announcements, emails, feedback on assignments. So, all right. Let's see here. Guess I can go ahead and start the tickets. Did you hear? You get a little bit of extra credit since you're the first one here. Let's see here. Excuse me. Good morning. Good morning. Problems, Ebony, trying to remember, was it Gorby? Gorby? No, forget. Actually, we'll start with him. I guess it's not Gorby either. I should have known this. Gross, right? No. Oh, wait, I know this one. I do. Randall Hill, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Just looking down the lines, that's time to study. Like I said, you get a little bit of extra credit for being the first one here. Let's see. Dylan. What's the last name start with? C. Okay. Oh, that's right. It's a champion. Yes, sir. You also get a little bit of extra credit for being the first or this early and for wearing your WBSU shirt. It's not much extra. So instead of 1 point for the day, you're going to have 1.02 points. So this will add up. For example, if you do this class and you can't join us online, and for some reason you can't watch the video, like sometimes it does record, then all those extra points you have will be applied towards, missing days. Or if you're in the course with perfect attendance, which means you have over 100 points for attendance, there's no way for me to put over 100 points in the system, so those extra points go towards your course extra credit. It does benefit you. So I may have actually done something to be asking the same questions all the time. But so I remember that Randall's from North Carolina. You try to remember where you're from before I ask. Let me think. This gentleman sitting near you who was from Florida. He's from the Orlando area. Kansas County. Okay. It was somewhere in West Virginia, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Pink Creek or Elkins.
I remember somebody else was. Cabin Creek or something.
Yeah, it's almost Cabot Creek, it's almost Sissonville,
Cabin.
yeah. It's not you,
No.
it's me. Also, it's the fact that, I'm not from here. I've been living here for a long time, but I'm still not from here, so I don't know all the places. If you were to say someplace in Florida, I'd be like, oh yeah, I know where that is, and it's sticking in my brain. So where are you from?
Oak Hill.
Okay.
Where are you originally from?
Like I said, I'm Florida, because I was born in Savannah, Georgia, and then we just moved a lot.
You said your dad was from Greece and stuff.
Yeah, my dad was born in Greece. He snuck over here, but he's legal now, so this is being recorded. I'm in high school after my dad. He is legal. Anyway, yeah, he's from Greece, but my mom and her side of the family has just been in Georgia for generations. It goes like as far back as I can trace. But anyway, yeah, I was born in Georgia, in Savannah. And I think we moved an average of once every 2 years when I was growing up. So we moved up to Atlanta. So in Atlanta, around Atlanta, down to Miami, down to Largo, up to Gainesville, Florida, to the Atlanta area. Back to the Keys, back to the Atlanta area. So all over. And then when I joined the Marines, I was obviously went to school a few different places, but then I was stationed in Beaufort, South Carolina, and that's where I bought my first house. So, and where my first daughter, my first child was born. So I kind of claimed South Carolina a little bit, even though I was only there for 3 years.
My mom was born in Florida. My dad was 80 years ago, born and raised in Kershaw, South Carolina.
Sounds familiar. Okay.
Then I was born and raised in Jamestown, North Carolina,
Okay.
right outside Greensboro.
Okay. Oh, I know where that is because we drive through there a lot.
And then moved up here.
Okay. What brought you guys up here?
Family.
That's what brought us up here. I met my wife at Florida State. She was there for her master's. She graduated. Said, I'm going to go back home because she's from Florida. We weren't married at the time. We were just kind of dating, not even officially engaged yet. Like, I'm going to go back home. You're going to stay here in Tallahassee? You're going to come with me? I was like, I'm going with you. So here I am. For the longest, I still don't have any local friends, old friends that are here, but I do have family. My mom moved here from Seattle. So that's pretty cool. All right, I'm going to guess your name. I'm going to try to guess. Let's see. Maybe it'll help me to guess where you're from too, like we were just talking about them. Are you the one from the Orlando area? Yeah. Okay, that helps a little. Not Winter Park, but somewhere around there. Let's see. Is it Hill? Running back though, right? Okay. Sims time thing. Remember where you're from. Remember what position you play. Let's see. Bro. Okay. No. Definitely. Tough one. I'm gonna say Smith. Let's start with
C.
T.
Oh, no, okay.
T. Then. Okay, yeah. So you will also have a little bit of extra credit points. One, because you're here so early, and two, because you were just here. So that means you have 0.02 points out there right now, as opposed to 1 point. It sounds like much, but it adds up. All right, so next that came in, the blue shirt. I'm going to try to guess again. Since we have time. Once most people start showing up, I have to quit the guessing game again. Definitely not Marcus or Gabriel. Michael. Woodruff. Grace?
Nope.
Yeah. Good. Erica? All right. That was a test. Fast. Remember your names. Madison? Jamie?
Nope.
All right. Yeah. Run that off here. Alexis? Good, baby. Samantha?
Yeah.
Yay, I knew I'd get it. So you have 1.01 points instead of 1 point, so you got a little extra for being so early. And I know, like I was just telling people before it came up before you, I'm gonna be asking the same questions a lot at the beginning of this method, because it helps me remember who you are. So I know you probably already answered this before, but where are you from?
Category.
That's right, and we were talking about you sort of earlier, when we were talking about where everybody in the class is from, we did mention category. Anyway. It's about 10 minutes, so play the guess again. All right, so you came in after her. While I'm playing the guess again, that's going to interrupt me anytime you want to get questions back. We are recording, so questions would be good. If anybody's watching the video, so hopefully they can learn your questions and my answers. All right, let's narrow it down. What does your last name start with? Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Oh, well, sorry. Well, we'll start with you, okay? Okay, Grace. Yours. That's, I know it's impolite point, but sometimes just, I don't have any other options. So, you must be Erica. Oh, that's right. No. And I think Slaughter was sitting there. So. Over? Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. I don't remember who came last. Let's do this in order and post this. Sorry again, points, but I don't have much choice. Teresa Jimenez from Madrid. We'll get you credit for being here early. And oh yeah, and you back up here. Stover also has a little bit of extra credit for being here early, requiring WBSU here. Slaughter. Again, a little extra credit for being here early. All right, 1 second. Brockville. Hey! I mean, yeah, that's, so a little extra credit for being here early. I haven't got you yet, correct? Okay, all right. Gabriel. No, I knew it was. Brody. Smith. No. Sigmund? Right. Who said Sigmund? Back there?
Oh,
Okay.
you asked about the same.
No, see, this is what, you can point more. No, but that helps, so Erica Sigmund, correct? All right, you get a little extra credit for being here so early and for wearing WBSU gear. I already guessed Smith with you, and that wasn't it, Young? Now I'm running out of options. The Nest. Okay. Again, extra credit for being early and for wearing WBSU gear. Let's see. So all we have is, I think, 6 men in the back. Gorby? No. Done. Alright. Same thing, extra credit.
Obviously.
Now, on next, I was just gonna get him, we're gonna be the issue here. Not, there's a bunch of you now. Watson? No. It's my bad. I was excited about that. It's fucking sure it was different for some reason. Smith? And I may have even already guessed that. I did apologize. I already guessed Watson. Good grief, all right. Well, let's start with the hints. What's your last name start with?
Why?
Young.
Yeah.
All right. You are accounted for. Swayback? Okay, all right. That's the WBSU shirt you're running there? I can't tell. Nope. Just checking. Don't forget, WBSU Wednesdays, get a little bit of extra credit. You wear WBSU on Wednesdays. You wear WBU gear or Marshall gear on Wednesdays, I will make sure you don't get any extra credit on Wednesdays. Or again on that. Fridays, wear what you want. You got a different football team. It's school, but whatever. Right. Smith? Is it Smith? Yay, all right. Is that a WVSU shirt or just a black shirt? We all almost match. You the ones who are wearing WVSU shirts. Not all, but large majority of us. Is anybody I haven't called yet? Everybody accounted for so far? All right. Does anybody have any announcements that you want to share with the class? That maybe promote your team, promote your student organization, promote your business. If you have one. Who has a business here? Anybody have a business? What do you have for your business? If you don't mind me asking. If you don't mind me getting in your business.
I make costumes.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool. I don't think I've ever met anybody who does that. So is it like costumes, like for cosplay, or for like we want something custom for Halloween, or
Any of it. Mostly cosplay is what I do, but I do like Renaissance fair stuff too.
I think I remember that you did one of those all about you quizzes, right? Yeah. Well, it's the first time I've ever someone's ever said that, so it's 6 out. That's pretty interesting. All right.
That's your door waiting for you.
Yes, she is.
That's your door waiting for you.
The Gorby?
Huh?
Last name Gorby?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Keep guessing here.
Ain't no wrong.
Hill.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The other Hill. Here, the Z Hill. I may have asked you this before, but where are you from, Hill?
Richmond, Virginia.
That's right, I did ask that before. Okay. Is anybody else here from Richmond? Okay, so just you, yeah. Either I've asked that before, or you answered it in that all online quiz by yourself, or both. Good morning. Good morning. Gorby? We'll be so excited to see Gorby just because I keep using Gorby's name as a guest. Interesting, because I didn't think you were Michael. Stringy. Interesting. All right, let's go with hints then again. What's your last name start with? G. Oh, it is Gorby then, right? No. Nope. All right, Gross. Yeah. One of my best friend's last name is Gross, but he spells it different. What's that say? Yep. Yeah. He's from Pennsylvania. That means we're just missing. Wait. Goes down. Yeah, here goes. Right there. You just missing Gorby. So I have a couple minutes, so we'll wait. Again, if anybody has any questions, let me know. Any announcements, reminders, stuff like that. When's the first football game?
Another
30th?
next.
Is it home or away? Away, where is it? Okay. I just emailed the athletic director yesterday, that volunteered, if I can, to like come along on student athlete trips. Not necessarily football, but whatever. Just so you could have like a dedicated tutor stuck in the pan with you. So if you got nothing else to do, and I'm there, I can help you do your work.
I think we're trying to raise money to buy plane tickets to go to West Florida.
Okay, see, that's an announcement. How are you trying to raise the money?
It's just fundraising.
Like, you know, like what kind of fundraiser? You selling
It's
stuff?
called an hour-a-thon, and you send a text to somebody and you follow it up with a call. And then like you press the link on the text, we'll send it, it has your person's information and what, you put offense or defense, and you just put your credit card information in it, and then press donate, whatever amount you want.
So you need,
We raised like $20,000.
wow. So you need
We started.
people's phone numbers then, is that right? So you said you text them and then.
So like you go to your contacts and upload so many people from your contacts. And then you can like text off and then it'll automatically like text out each person. And then everybody.
There you guys go. If anybody wants to help with the football team. There you go. Anyway, it is 8, so we'll get started. I'm gonna get slowly started again, since it's the beginning of the semester. Give some time for late people to show up. Since we are recording, I'm gonna go through the attendance, even though I've said most of these names, we're gonna go ahead and do it one more time officially. So Brumfield is here, Champion is here, Gorby is not here, correct? Okay, Gross is here, Gunther is here, both Hills are here, Jackson is not here. Keys is here, McCray is not here. Here, Sigmund is here, Slaughter is here, Smith is here, Stover is here, Tompkins is here. Tomasic, no Tomasic, okay. Vanessa is here, Watson is here. Williams, not here. Young is here, Schweibeck is here, Lawrence is here. Did I miss anybody? All right, let's get started. Yeah, first we'll do announcements and reminders. And again, I'm gonna start slowly because we are missing a couple of people and hoping they show up. So to remind you, if you guys have anything to write with, if you want to, throughout the lecture, I'm gonna give a series of attendance words or phrases, and you can write those down. And if you want, sometime before 9 a.m. or sometime between the end of this class and before 9 a.m., if you send me those words, you can get a little bit more extra credit added to your attendance. So yeah, the first word for attendance is going to be fundraiser, as we were just talking about. Fundraiser. Fundraiser is the first word for extra attendance, or extra credit. Any questions about that? Okay. Let me make sure it's still recording. Okay, we're still recording. All right, what else? Be prepared to take a few notes. So yeah, not only just write down those words if you want for extra credit, but also throughout this lecture, or all the lectures that I give, I will be, sorry, let me bear with me while I get this pulled up. Okay. I'll tell you a few things throughout the lecture, like, hey, you don't really need to know this, or you're definitely going to need to know this for the exam, or you're not going to be able to find this in the textbooks. You might want to write it down, or at least take a note of it. It's not going to be in the textbook. Also, a lot of times I'll give you extra credit opportunities where I'll say something like, like we'll bring up a topic and I'll say, for 1 point of extra credit, answer me this question. And I'll give you some random question that's involved, that has to do with the subject that's on the screen. And then you can just email me with an answer to that question and get 1 point. Or I might say something like, this is a good topic if you want to write a paper about it for extra credit. And one of you asked me, I don't remember who it was, but for extra credit papers, you can send those to me via Google Docs, and we can cross that bridge when we get there. But if you do that, those extra credit points can be applied to your weekly discussion or your discussions. So basically, for the discussions, I'm like, here's a list of things I want you to write about. But then throughout the lecture, I'll say, Here's some other stuff you can write about. So for that, you just send me papers. And really, honestly, if it's anything about biology, you can write a paper about it. So yes, in the discussions, I am saying write about this, but also just so you know, for your own independent work, you can write whatever you want, as long as it has to do with biology. Or there are some exceptions, and you'll see why. Like next chapter, for example, we're talking about chemistry, so you'll be able to write about chemistry. Any questions about that? Being able to take a few notes. All right, just as a reminder, we have lab every Wednesday from 9 to 10:50, except this Wednesday and except the last Wednesday of class. So we will not meet today. I mean, I'll be in my office online, so if you need me for office hours, let me know. Speaking of which, let me skip ahead a little bit. Your pre-lab is due on Friday, right? So you have to have that pre-lab in, uploaded to WVSU Online. If you don't do that, you can't come to lab next week, and if you don't come to lab next week, you get 0 points out of 20. So that's a pretty big deal, right? But that being said, again, since we don't have lab today, and I'm going to be in my office and online, if you need help with the pre-lab, let me know. We can work on it together. I mean, that's the case always. Even though you said, you do it on your own, you don't have to. I can help you. But also, that being said, don't forget to bring your computer to lab, or excuse me, computer to lecture on Friday. And I'm going to still need one volunteer. Email me if you want to be a volunteer. I need a volunteer to do what I'm doing. Log in on this computer, share your screen, so then I can walk you through the process of how to find the pre-lab, how to fill out the pre-lab, and how to submit it. And that way you guys can see how to do it. I would do it myself, but since I'm the professor, when I go to WVSU Online, it looks different than it does for you. Make sense? All right, so again, don't forget your devices on Friday. It's not the end of the world if you don't do it, but it would be nice if we could just all do it at the same time. Like whoever's up here, I'm saying first do this, and you can do it too, so on and so forth. So any questions about any of the information on this? All right, let's finally jump into this course. So I'll start with this. Actually, let me start with one more thing first. Every semester, what I keep trying to do is have students talk to me more. Instead of me just talking at you, I prefer to have conversations. I say that at the beginning of every semester. I try it a lot at the beginning of the semester. It never works. And then towards the end, I just quit trying. And I'm going to try to do better. So let's try to have more conversations this semester than me talking at you. So let's start off with a conversation. Before we even jump into the information of the textbook, let me ask you this. And you just raise your hand and give me your answer. Why are you here? Anybody wants to answer that? Football. Football. You're here for football, okay? Anybody else? What was it? For your career? That's a big one usually. A lot of people are like, well, I have to go to college because I want this job. Do you have a particular career in mind? Like you have to have college for it, or you're just like, I know if I get just to get a job, it would help if I had college. Okay, I think I remember from your previous filling out of the thing. Anyway, all right, so for career, football, who else?
It's free.
Free, all right. How'd you get it to be for free?
I got grants.
That's awesome. As a matter of fact, on social media, like all my friends, not all my friends, but for a lot of my friends, I do recommend it, like for military people, because they can go for free while they're in. I'm like, might as well do it, right? Even if you don't need it, might as well do it. It always helps to learn. What else? Anybody else? Why are you here? Okay. It's interesting. You guys seem to know what I was getting at when I asked that question. But when you think about it, that could have meant anything. It could have been a philosophical question. Why are you on Earth? What is the meaning of life? Or it could mean, and this is my next point, I'm going to get a little bit more specific. What about this particular class? Why biology? How many of you are biology majors? None of you, right? Okay, so why biology? And you can be honest.
Because it's easier than chemistry.
Okay, it's easier than chemistry. It could be, depending on how your brain works. Chemistry's a lot of math.
I didn't even pick my classes.
You didn't choose your classes? Oh, man. You should choose. If you get the chance, you should definitely choose your own classes. But I like the honesty. What else?
I used to spend online for my major.
Wow. Okay, so they just chose it. Okay. Anyone else?
It was easier than physics.
Easier than physics? Yeah, definitely easier than physics. And I had to take physics just to be a biology major. How many of you are in college because this is what's expected of you of your family? Oh, wow. That's great to see. Anyway, what I was getting at with that is, I think a lot of people, other than student athletes, or you're just here for the sport, A lot of people are like what some other people said, is like, I'm here for a job, right? This is preparation for me to get a job. And that is a lot of what it is. But I try to fight against that a lot. Again, on social media with my friends, I do that a lot. You'll see these memes about like, you know, if you really want to make some money, get into the trades, like do, you know, electronics or plumbing. And that is true. If you're looking for money, the trades are a great way to make money. The college should be a lot more than that. And this is like my big fight in life. A big thing that I'm fighting for is to make people realize college is more than just preparation to get a job. It should help you be, you know, a more informed voter, a more informed consumer, a more informed citizen. It's important. Hopefully you guys are young enough to where you're not even into politics yet. But if you are in politics and you have a particular side, I'm not gonna say anything bad about any particular side. But whichever side you're on, you can probably agree right now, the other side, it's nuts, right? They are so misinformed, whichever side you're on. You can probably look at the other side and say, my God, those people are so misinformed. And they are, whichever side you're talking about. There's so many misinformed people out here. Dumb people spreading dumb information, making dumb decisions in the ballot box. Lord knows, sitting on a jury. Dumb as, you know, a bag of bricks, just making decisions for someone's life. And they don't know anything and they don't know how to think. It's dangerous. So college, in my opinion, is very, very important. Not just to get a job, but because when you're a citizen, that's important. Being a citizen is of the world, of the United States, is important. You have a lot of responsibilities. Being dumb, it doesn't just hurt you, it hurts everybody. So this particular class is going to give you the basics, you know, the basics of biology. So you're not going to be an expert on anything, but when someone says, like when you're older, and someone says, you know, you got to give your kids these vaccines, and you're like, I'm going to do some research. Well, you're not going to be an expert on vaccines after this class, but you'll have the groundwork. So when you're, you know, researching that particular vaccine, for example, you're not starting from ground zero. You're already starting from, you know, a little bit higher. Or, I don't know, maybe you get cancer, and your doctor's like, well, here's the treatment options. We've got A or B, and then you need to do some research, right? This will allow you to not start from the ground level, right? You'll have some sort of background. So it really is important. I hope you take it seriously. And you know, some people argue or complain, especially again, none of you are biology majors. So I hear this a lot too, like, why do I even need to take classes outside of my major? And that's the point. The bachelor's degree is supposed to be like a broad education. Like, yeah, you get really specific with your major, but you need to know a lot of stuff, again, to be an informed citizen. Even classes like film appreciation and art, right? This might just seem like fun classes, but they're teaching you how to figure out what the artist was trying to tell you. Especially sometimes like when governments get a little bit overbearing and authoritarian, sometimes you just can't come out and say bad things about those governments. Sometimes you got to sneak it into your art, right? So anyway, I'll get off the soapbox because I'll be on it all semester. Again, a college education should be more than just preparing you for a job. So you should be here not just to play football or whatever sport, or just to prepare yourself for a job, but you should be here to learn. It should be important. How many of you, and you guys are pretty young, so maybe not, have you ever paid somebody to teach you something like a concealed weapons permit class or CPR class or piano lessons, anything like that? Is it coaching you guys have? So you can answer this if you want, you don't have to, but what did you have someone pay you? Like, what did you pay them to teach you? If you want to answer. You want to CPR class, yeah. So you paid attention, right? It's like, I'm paying you to teach me this, I'm gonna pay attention. Same thing here, right? Even though you might not have chosen this class, and it might be forced that you have a science class, you're paying to learn this, so you should pay attention. I say that because, you know, sometimes I've taken some classes where I paid for it, like had nothing to do with higher education, and I paid a lot of attention, like I'm trying to learn this. But then, admittedly, when I was a student, sometimes I'd be in class and like, all right, I've got to get a good grade on this because I have to get a good grade on this. I wasn't really interested, right? So it might help you to fake the funk in your brain, even if you're not interested in biology. Try your best to be interested in it. That's what I did in college. I barely passed high school because school was so boring to me. I just didn't give a crap. Also, I didn't like doing work. I wasn't lazy. I just like to have fun, and homework wasn't fun. But anyway, I barely passed high school. Joined the Marines. They changed me. I was a little bit more focused then. And then once I got to college, man, I did great, so much better than high school, because I was just good at lying to myself. Like, I'm gonna pretend like I'm really into this subject. Whatever it was, I just did my best to tell myself I was into it. So that's my advice for for succeeding in this class and any other class. Now, let's jump into this. Actual biology. Okay. So last year is the first year that we started using the textbook that you guys are using. And I switched over because it's free and it's online, so that's really handy. However, the old textbook we used was really good. So I have kept some of those, the things from the old textbook in these PowerPoints. And this is an example of that. So the beginning of every chapter from the old textbook starts with this thing that says why biology matters, or why, whatever the chapter is, why chemistry matters, why genetics matters. And I like it because it breaks up the monotony, because it's sort of like a little guessing game. So we'll do the same thing. And this is not your textbook. You're not going to get tested on it. But let's talk about it. Anybody even tell what this thing is? What is that a picture of? Yeah, it's a rover on Mars. It's doing a lot of stuff, looking for a lot of stuff. But does anybody know what some of the things that it's doing? Some of the things it's looking for? Not that I expect you to. I'm just curious if anybody knows. Water. Good. Who said that? Yeah, you're right. Matter of fact, it's doing a lot of things, but water is the one I was eventually going to get to. That's the big one as far as we're concerned. In this class, anyway. It's looking for water, amongst other things. So far, it's only found the Dollar General. I'm just kidding. So why is it looking for water? What does it matter? It's a robot. It doesn't need water. Why would it need to look for water? What's the matter if they find water on Mars?
A sign of life.
Yes. Well, good. And that'll be very important in this chapter and the next chapter, because life does need water. So yes, if we find water on Mars, that means life is therefore more possible than if there's no water. So yeah, that's what we're getting at. So good job. For 1 point of extra credit, sometime, anytime, just don't do it now. Anytime after the lecture, between then and the end of the semester, you can answer me this question. Have we found water on Mars? So you just look it up, find the answer, email it to me and say, according to this source, yes, we have. According to this source, no, we haven't. So 1 point of extra credit. Or if you want to, you can write a paper about it, in which case your points will be based on how long your paper is. All right, how about this? This is really kind of hard to see, but what's going on there? It's easier to see on my screen, but can anybody tell what's going on there? That's a person working on a bicycle wheel. What in the world do you think that has to do with chapter 1, when we talk all about biology? Any guesses? And I'll give you a hint. Make it a little bit more broad. Instead of talking about biology specifically, we're also going to talk about science in general. So what do you think that person fixing something has anything to do with science? No guesses?
There's a lot of parts to keep something running.
I like that. That is true. And you would need science and technology to make those parts and design those parts too. Yep, that is true. Not what I was getting at, but it is true. So I'll just tell you. Well, let me ask you this. How many of you guys use the scientific method on a regular basis? None, right? So you think. The point is, with this picture, what they're trying to get at is you actually do use the scientific method a lot. You just don't think about it. The scientific method is just a way of thinking and problem solving. And we're going to talk all about the scientific method in this first chapter. And you'll come to realize that, man, I guess I do use the scientific method a lot. So that's what that is. How about this? Let me ask you this. What is this a picture of? Any guesses? A bird. Good. How do you know? Well, what kind of bird? I don't know either. But can we all agree it's a bird? Me too. And I don't know what kind of bird it is. I've not seen it before, other than every time I get this lecture, but I've not seen one in the wild or in a documentary or anything like that. How do we know that's a bird? If you don't even know what kind of bird it is, how do I know you're telling me the truth? Oh, it's a bird. Yet you can't even tell me what kind of bird it is. How do you know it's a bird?
That's feather.
Feathers. Good. Okay. What else?
A beak.
A beak. Yep. Got those kind of feet. It's not necessarily unique to birds. Reptiles have them too, but yeah. So because of something called taxonomy, which is a subdivision of biology, we have this way of thinking scientifically where you just know things, right? In biology, you just categorize things. As we do as humans, we categorize things. So sometimes you can see something like, oh yeah, I don't know what kind of bird that is, but from what I know about biology, that is a bird. Anyway, what your textbook was getting at with that is, again, there's this sub part of biology called taxonomy. So that's what that is. The second word for attendance, since we're talking about it, is bird. Word will be the second word for attendance. And again, if you're here in person, you don't have to send me those words before 9 a.m., but if you do, you'll get a little extra credit. If you're watching the video, you do have to send those words to prove that you watched the video, and of course, a screenshot every time I say the word, the attendance phrase. Any questions about that? All right. Here's something else that I'm not going to test you on that I think is from your old textbook. It might also be in the new textbook, but why does biology matter to you? And I kind of hinted at this earlier, and I'm going to talk about it throughout the semester because I don't want you to feel like you're wasting your time and you're forced to learn biology. It has nothing to do with your everyday life, but it does have to do with your everyday life, right? So if you're just interested in life in general, like what makes something alive, right? So if you have a curiosity to the natural world, life is relevant and important to you no matter your background or goals. If you're into things like pets, right? If you have pets, that's biology. If you're into fitness, or if you're a student athlete, right, and you're the fitness aspect of that, that's biology. If you like going to zoos, if you like hiking, gardening, all these things, right? That's all biology. Then there's the stuff I mentioned earlier where people are arguing a lot, right? People argue about GMOs. People argue about vaccines. People argue about health in general. I posted something, again, social media. What was it? Crisco came out on this day, whatever year, and it was a few days ago. And I just thought that was slightly interesting. And I like to cook with cast iron skillets, so I posted something about that on the cast iron skillet group. That's all I know. I'm in a cast iron skillet group. Anyway, I posted it, and man, people just fucking. Oh, sorry for the language. They were just mad. Some people just mad, like that's garbage. I'd rather blah blah blah. Okay, who cares, man? So yeah, it's not that good for you. I'm not saying cook with it. I'm not spoon feeding it to you, but man, people just get so pissy these days. Everything is political. So anyway, yeah, that's this bullet point, right? And again, for extra credit, feel free to think of any topic that involves biology and write about it. What is somebody climate change, right? People get pissed about that. New diseases, right? COVID when that first came out, people were just arguing about everything. Gender versus sex. In this class, you're going to learn a little bit about that. There's a difference between gender and sex. Gender is like a social thing. Sex is a biological thing, and it's not as simple as XX or XY, which you'll learn later. Anyway, so yes, biology is relevant to your everyday life. Speaking of which, this is another great topic if you want to write an extra credit paper. Think about your life. Why does it matter? Why does biology matter to you? Right? So maybe if you have a particular disease or somebody in your family has a particular disease, that might be important. You're a student athlete, right? So again, fitness, nutrition, stuff like that. Anyway, again, you will not be tested on that, and that is the end of the introduction. Now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of it. Chapter 1 is broken down into 2 sections, and you cannot read them. The first one is themes and concepts of biology, and the second one is the process of science. Right? So in theory, you guys should have already read chapter 1 by now, and this should be a review. So if you haven't, intent, make sure you read the chapter. So the learning objectives for the first section, again, sorry, this is hard to read. At the end of this, you should be able to identify and describe the properties of life. You will be tested on that. Describe the levels of organization among living things. You will be tested on that. And list examples of different subdisciplines in biology. You're probably not going to get tested on that. So, before I move forward, let's see if anybody can guess this. What is the definition of biology? Anybody want to give me that? Definition of biology. What was it? Study of life? Who said that? Correct. Very good. If you happen to send me those extra credit words at the end, remind me that you got that correct so you get a little bit of extra credit for that too. That is true. It's a true statement. Biology is the study of life, and I grew up hearing that too. However, you could be even more true. You could be more specific, because what is religion? It's a study of life, right? What is history? It's a study of life that's happened before, right? So there's all kinds of different ways to study life. So what is biology? To get a little bit more specific, it is a study of life. How else can we define it? What is one, that's a hint. What's one other word we could add to make it more accurate, more precise? Any guesses?
Science.
Yeah, science is the word. Good. Biology is the science that studies life. So know that definition for the exam. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you now. I don't like to do trick questions, but when I do trick questions, I like to let you know beforehand you're going to have that trick question. So this will be a trick question. You guys are teammates. Make sure he gets this. I'm not gonna bother, but I know how it is. Speaking of which, one of the things that I learned in the Marines, I like to pass on to you guys. It's a little too late for him. But if you ever get like, we're in a lecture and you're just really tired, like I can barely keep my eyes open. Do what you need to do. If you feel like you need to get up and stand up in the back of the classroom and just move around a little bit, do what you need to do. I'm not gonna bother me. Unless what you need to do is don't stand up here on top of this desk, you know. Be respectful for your classmates, but do what you need to do to stay awake. Anyway, yeah, so biology is a science and study of life. Know that for the exam. It will be a trick question. One of the options for the multiple choice exam is going to be the study of life. That's a wrong answer because biology is the science that studies life. Make sure you keep science in there. So that breaks us down, or that brings us to some other questions. If it's the science that studies life, then what does it mean to be alive, right? What is life? There's another way of saying that. Like, I'm alive, you're alive, but why? What makes me alive? What makes you alive? That bird that we saw a picture of presumably was alive and not stuffed, but at one point it was alive. What made it alive? The other question is, how else can you study life? That's not an important bullet point as far as the exam is concerned. We will talk about it because, like I mentioned earlier, I said, what is religion? It's also the study of life, right? So I'm going to put an X there indicating, well, we are going to talk about it. I'm not going to test you on that. So finally, the other second important question is, if biology is the science that studies life, again, first of all, what is life? And the second question then is, what is science, right? So you're going to need to know these things. What is life? What is science? So before we move forward, what is life? So if I were to bring in a puppy tomorrow or Friday, show it to you and say, is this thing alive? Assuming it was alive. And you said yes. Then what makes that puppy alive?
It's breathing.
What is it?
It's breathing. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna
Breathing. I like that. In that case, that would mean it's not dead if it's breathing, but I'm glad you said that. That is actually not one of the properties of life, because not everything breathes, right? Plants don't breathe, bacteria don't breathe. But yeah, for that puppy, if it's breathing, that means I took care of it and didn't kill it, so that's good. What else? Moving. I like that because people get that a lot too. That's actually also not necessarily a function of life. Think about like, that's kind of a bad example, but coral, you know, they get to a place, trees, that's a good example. They get to a place, they stay there, generally speaking. I mean, they grow, but generally speaking, like a tree's not going to, oh, there's a drought here. I'm going to up my roots and go somewhere else. Movement, not actually one of them, but I like this because these are common ideas. Most living things do live or move. And when you think about it, you could make an argument for it if you want to write to the people who wrote this textbook, because when you think about it, inside your cell, which we're going to study, there's all kinds of things moving inside your cell. So great answer, but as far as the exam is concerned, purge that great answer from your brain. What else? What would make that puppy alive? What can it do that something not alive can do? How about that? And we're comparing it. I'm going to take the puppy and compare it to this computer. What makes the puppy alive but not the computer? It's a tough one, isn't it? Let's just jump into it then. So there is no definition that you're going to need to memorize, but there are something called the properties of life. And the properties of life, and I'm going to give you the properties of life, and you're going to need to know them for the exam. I will say this too. The properties of life I'm about to give you vary depending on your source. They're all slightly the same, or very much the same, but they're always slightly different depending on the source that you get it from. Because there's different ways to describe it, different words. Again, the one I'm going to give you, for example, doesn't say anything about movement, which was a great guess back there. Some of the sources you find might say movement is one of those properties of life. So before I give you these, I'll also challenge you to do this for, again, an extra credit paper. What you can do is look up another source and say, I looked it up, and according to this source, these are the properties of life. Because I want you to question what I'm teaching you. Question everything, right? Question what I'm teaching you, question what the textbook says. Don't just take my word for it. Not just in my class either, but in every class. In every discussion you have with your friends and family, and they try to tell you something. Don't take their word for it. I'm not saying they're lying, but they may have been lied to, and they may have been passing on that lie because they didn't question it, because it fit their beliefs. So they're just going to pass it along without giving it another thought. Anyway, here you go. Here's what you need to know. Memorize it in that order. You're gonna need to know it for the exam. Just kidding. Not gonna do it like that. It is a multiple choice exam. That's the good news. Meaning you are actually not gonna necessarily need to regurgitate this entire list. But on the exam, I might say something like, all right, here's a list of the properties of life. One of these things is not a property of life, right? So you should be able to recognize something that does not belong on this list. Or the opposite. I might give you a list of things that are not a property of life. But then have one property of life and you need to recognize it. Or more, and I see you guys writing down very quickly. So just to let you know, we're going to talk about each one of these individually. So you can give your hand a break if you need to. You don't need to do this quickly. Anyway, another way I might ask this question is kind of going back to that puppy example. I might say something like, here's this organism. It does this, 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 and this, this, and this, and that. Or here's this thing. It does this, 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 and this, and this. Is it alive? Right? Something like that. So you need to be able to apply these concepts, not necessarily memorize it and regurgitate it. Also, the order in which it's listed does not matter. This just happens to be the order I'm teaching it. Neither one of those things are more important than the other. It's just a random order. So yeah, we're going to talk about each one of these individually. Are you guys ready to talk about these things individually? All right, what do you think order means? And I really hate this one. There's a better word for it, but I'm teaching out of the textbook, so I'm sticking with it. Any idea what that might mean by order? What does that mean? And that's why if you don't get it, I don't blame you, because again, I don't like the word order. No guesses? Again, I don't blame you. Let's talk about it then. Order. Really, honestly, just think about it. As far as we're concerned, order might as well just mean cellular. You know, we all have, anything alive is made of cells, and those cells have a certain order to them. Right? All cells have a membrane. Regardless of what organism you're looking at, they all have a membrane. All cells have DNA. Regardless of what organism you're looking at, they all have DNA. So yeah, you can write all these things down if you want. This is important for the exam. I think this is a test question if I remember correctly. The basic unit of life is a cell. It's not DNA, because that's a part of a cell. The cell itself is the basic unit of life. Because a cell can perform all the activities required for life, which is what we're going to talk about as we go down this list of the properties of life. Right? A cell can do all the things required for life, all these things that I'm about to show you on this list, which, by the way, is a preview of what this whole semester is about. That list that we're talking about right now, these properties of life, what it means to be alive, that's what we're going to talk about. For example, after we get past the chemistry, this is what we're going to learn about. We're going to learn about how cells work. What else? Yeah. Oh, see, I left myself that note. So yes, I guess if you're taking notes, do write those two things down. Or I'll remind you, these PowerPoints are all on WBSU Online. If you don't like taking notes, because I hated it, don't take notes. You just get the PowerPoint yourself from WBSU Online. But yes, I would at least write that down. Say, hey, that's not in the textbook, but you do need to know it. And again, I like to teach out of the textbook. So the very few times that I deviate from that, I want to make it very clear. So yes, you need to know those two things, even though they're not in the textbook. Another thing about order is there's also levels of organization, which we'll talk about later in this chapter. Right? So you might start small like a cell, and then a bunch of cells makes up tissue, and a bunch of tissue makes up an organ, and a bunch of organs make up an organism, and a bunch of organisms together make up a population, so on and so forth. You'll learn about that later. But yeah, life is very ordered. Which is a good time for me to also point this out. For something to be alive, it has to have all the properties of life. Because a lot of things that are not alive have some of the properties of life, right? A computer has order, right? There's these basic components that fit together to make larger components that fit together to make larger components, right? There is an order to a computer. But a computer's not alive, and we'll talk about why later. In 10 years, that might actually be a debate. With AI going the way it is, who knows? I don't know, man. That robot, you say it's not alive, I say it is. So we'll see. Anyway, any questions about order? All right. The next property of life, sensitivity or response to stimuli. If you were doing flashcards, maybe you could just write down sensitivity or response. And then hopefully you can just remember the whole response to stimuli. For example, plants, that particular type of plant, if you touch it, the leaves curl up, right? So, don't touch me. Then most all plants, for example, will go towards the sun, right? That's a response to stimuli. What would you guys probably do if I turn the AC off and turn the heat on up to 85 degrees right now? Yeah, start to sweat, right? Sweat is a response to stimuli. If I turn the lights on, you know, your eyeballs would adjust, right? It's a response to stimuli. But again, this thing, this computer, if it gets too hot, the fan's gonna kick on. Also a response to stimuli, right? So yet another property of life that computer has, but it doesn't have all of them, so it's not alive. So any questions about that? I don't even remember the bacteria example. I probably wrote it down. I did. Chemotaxis. Yeah, so there's something called phototaxis and chemotaxis, which you don't need to know about. Matter of fact, I don't need to talk about it. I should just take that example out. But anyway, yes, life response to stimuli. Any questions? All right, here's the big one, in my opinion. Probably this is the most important one, not as far as the exam is concerned, but when we talk about all these things, all these properties of life, a lot of non-living things have these properties, except this one. Reproduction. You need to know reproduction is a property of life. Life can reproduce with its own. It does not need anything else to help it reproduce. This is why, for example, a virus is not alive. Viruses cannot reproduce. They infect living cells, and then the cells reproduce for them. The viruses cannot reproduce. You don't need to know anything about this whole visual here, asexual versus sexual. We'll talk about that later in the semester. There will be a whole chapter essentially focused on this one bullet point, this one slide, reproduction. And again, there is asexual versus asexual, and we're going to talk about it later. But for now, you don't need to know that. That's just a preview. But you do need to know reproduction is a property of life. And even though I'm not going to ask you this part on the exam, again, in my opinion, that's one of the more important ones, right? This computer can do a lot of things that something living can do, but it cannot reproduce. Anyway, any questions about that? All right, here's another one. This one's a little bit trickier. And there's going to be a whole exam essentially based on this, but the next one is called adaptation. Adaptation. Organisms are fit to their environment. Right? They are good for their environment. Whether that be a giraffe who has a really long neck, so it can eat plants and leaves that other animals can't, or humans, who are the only primate that aren't extra hairy, right? So they can not be as hot. All kinds of stuff. This adaptation, arises via natural selection, and we're going to talk about all of that later. So for now, just know that adaptation is a property of life. That's it. That's all you need to know for now. There's going to be a whole exam where we discuss this chapter upon chapter about adaptation. Same thing with natural selection and evolution in general. If you download the PowerPoint, you can click this and they give you a little example of the difference between natural selection and adaptation. Right now, that's not important. Later in the semester, it will be. It's another good topic for a paper if you wanted to write about it. Just think about any living thing and explain, look it up and through your sources, but explain how it's adapted to its environment. Why is it good for its environment? For one example, if you were to put a cactus into a swamp with really wet soil, the cactus would not survive, right? But you put it in a desert with almost no water, it's thriving, right? It is adapted to be in dry environments. Anyway, that's it for adaptation. Any questions about adaptation? All right, another one. This next one's a big one. Growth and development. Living things grow. They change throughout their life. Even a single-celled organism, that cell will grow. Physically, it's going to start off as one size. It will get larger. And it will develop. Even a single-celled organism, it's going to start off as this, Within the cell, there will be changes within the cell. That's going to change. Obviously, for humans, we're familiar with humans. It's very obvious for the humans, right? You have one sperm cell, one egg cell. Those come together. Those start multiplying. Eventually, a baby pops out. That thing eventually goes up to be human or an adult, assuming everything works out in its life. But yeah, growth and development. There will be a whole couple of chapters based on that. So you're going to learn all about how these genes, your DNA, how that guides the growth and development. You'll need to know it later. For now, you just need to know growth and development is one of those properties of life. Just like this, computer is not going to grow and develop. Not physically. Right? I guess now with AI, they can grow and develop. I don't want to say intellectually, but artificially, intellectually, right? You can upgrade the software, right? Get updates. But non-living things do not grow and develop. Now, granted, I could upgrade this computer, right? And take out one component and put a new one in, but I'm doing that. So the computer didn't do it, so it's not allowed. Any questions about that? All right. The next one. This one's a little bit tricky too, because earlier we talked about response to stimuli. And now here's one that's kind of close, and it's regulation / homeostasis, also known as steady state. So in a way, the way these are related, not that you need to know this, I just want to make sure you're not confused about the two. Response to stimuli is one thing. But homeostasis kind of works by response to stimuli, right? So the example I gave at first for response to stimuli was if you touch that one species of plant, it curls up, right? That's not homeostasis. That's just response to stimuli. It's like, oh, you're touching me, I don't want to be touched. That's just a response to stimuli. Now, homeostasis is keeping things balanced, whether it's a cell or your body or whatever, or an entire population or ecosystem. Life keeps itself balanced. And yes, it does do that often through response to stimuli. But yeah, you need to know what regulation and homeostasis is. So for example, does anybody know the pH of your blood? What it should be anyway? What was it? No? 7.4. You'll learn that later. You don't need to know it now. But yeah, if your pH changes too much past that, you'll die. Right? So your body needs to keep it in that range. Same with your temperature. Does anybody know what your temperature is supposed to be in Fahrenheit? 98.6, yeah. For 1 point of extra credit, send me an email and tell me what it is in Celsius. For 2 points, tell me what it is in Celsius and Kelvin. Kelvin. That's a whole different type. We don't even deal with Kelvin in this class because it's 100 level, but might as well throw it out there.
If we talk about temperatures, are we always gonna use like Fahrenheit?
Yeah. Well, no, sorry. No, great question. No, we're going to use metric. So occasionally in a lecture, I might use things you're used to, like feet, Fahrenheit, stuff like that. But this is science, and in science we use metric. Makes a lot more sense. Like 5,280 feet to a mile is garbage. I don't like it. Anyway, it's not just because I don't like it. It's not like I'm saying it's garbage, I don't like it, we're not doing it. This is the case because this is just how science works. Sorry, my computer made a noise. Let me go check on that, make sure no one's trying to log on or something. Bear with me. Oh, glad I did that. Okay. Anyway, yes, homeostasis, just know about it. And again, these are just examples. You don't need to know about them yet. We're going to learn about them later. But yes, this is what keeps you alive. As a matter of fact, the fact that things are in balance, and I really wish we had time to get into this semester, the fact that there is an imbalance inside your cells is what keeps you alive. It's like trying to maintain this balance and molecules going from here to there. That actually keeps you alive. Not just the fact that you're keeping it in balance, but the act of balancing it. Anyway, any questions about that? All right. Energy processing. That's a big one. There's going to be, as a matter of fact, after we get past this introduction, and once we get past chemistry and the basics of how cells work, that's the first thing we're going to talk about, energy processing. For example, hold on, before I get into it. Yep, I'll put an X to these little bullet points here. only indicating that for now, you don't need to know that. We're gonna talk about it later. But yeah, you need to know for now, energy processing is one of the properties of life. But ultimately, where does all the energy on life or all the energy on Earth come from? In living things, with a very few exceptions. All the energy in your body, where did it come from? Like you guys are alive right now, you're moving. Where'd that energy come from? Good, food. Where'd the energy from that food come from? Plants.
Water.
Well, you do need water to get the energy, and we'll talk about that later. But those plants had energy in their bonds, the chemical bonds inside of them. Where did that energy come from? What is it? I think I heard someone say it. There's a big hint on the screen.
The sun.
The sun, right? The sun is our ultimate source of energy on Earth, with a very few exceptions. And for 1 point of extra credit, you can send me an email and tell me what the exceptions are where it's not the sun. But yeah, sun is the ultimate source of energy. Now, when I'm low on energy, I can't go outside naked and just absorb the sun. That won't work, right? Because we have energy processing. My body cannot utilize solar energy to keep me alive, right? So we have to go through the process of converting solar energy to the chemical energy of sugars, for example. And then I eat those sugars. And then my body will break down those sugars and release that chemical energy and turn that chemical energy into a different type of chemical energy. And those are the things you're going to learn about, again, in the beginning of the semester. But for now, energy processing, it's a form of life. And again, non-living things can do it too. What kind of energy is this computer working on? Not solar energy, right? I can put it in the dark and this thing would still work. Why is this thing on? What kind of energy is it using?
Electricity.
Good, electricity. Most likely DC electricity, which you don't need to know. But that DC electricity that it's using was converted because the electricity coming out of those walls is AC. So the energy had to be processed. And where did that electricity come from coming out of the walls? Probably. I don't know how familiar you are with this area. Do you guys know where our electricity comes from? Does anybody know where our electricity comes from in this area?
Is it Amos?
Yeah, John Amos power plant. They burn coal, right? So there's chemical energy in that coal. We burn it. That chemical energy is released as heat. That heat boils water. That turns to steam. That steam energy is then kinetic energy, and it turns a turbine. And that kinetic energy of the turbine turning is then converted to electric energy, right? So energy processing, even non-living things do it. Then we'll talk about it again in the beginning of the semester. The last one is evolution. Life evolves. Now this is sometimes people debate this. So let me be very clear what I'm saying for right now. We'll dive deep later in the semester. This statement is not saying, right now I'm not saying this, that life got here through evolution. So even if you don't believe that, that's fine. But life that is here, it evolves, right? So if your belief is that life was created, boom, boom, there's a human, boom, there's a cow. Even if you believe that, even at that moment, after it was created, it changes. Humans have evolved, cows have evolved, potatoes have evolved, living things evolve. And again, there'll be a whole discussion about that later. So I'll put an X to that. I'll also point this out again, it doesn't always result in a new species, right? So again, like I said, humans evolved, but humans now, which are a lot different than humans a long time ago, but we're still humans, right? But again, we'll talk about that later. So any questions about the properties of life? All right. One more thing before we end for the day. When we come back on Friday, we're going to talk about all these things. So just like the properties of life, you're also going to need to know these. The organizations, right? The levels of organization, you're going to need to know them. You're going to need to know them the same way you know the properties of life. Meaning, for the exam, I'm not going to ask you to list all of these, right? I'm going to give you a list probably and say, hey, which one of these does not belong in this list? Or, hey, which one of these things is missing from the list? But unlike the properties of life that we just learned, these, you do need to know them in order. So again, you might get a question that says, here's 4 lists of levels of organization. Which one of them is correct, right? So they'll all be out of order except one, and you have to choose the one that's not out of order, or vice versa. Maybe they'll all be in order, and then there'll be one that's out of order, and I'll say choose the one that's out of order. So yes, you need to know all those. You need to know them in that order. And then come back on Friday, we're going to talk about what each one means. And this is also a map of our semester, because first you're going to learn about atoms and molecules. Then you're going to learn about organelles and cells. Then we'll kind of skip a lot. Then we'll go into populations, communities, ecosystems, and at the very end of the semester, we'll end with biosphere. So there's our guideline for the semester. The last word for attendance, I'm going to circle it instead of say it. So if you're watching the video and you've got your eyes closed and you're just listening to the video, open your eyes, look at the word I just circled, and that's the last word for attendance. So for all of you who are here, you can send me those words before 9 a.m. if you want to for extra credit. And that's it. I'll see you on Friday. Don't forget to bring your devices, your computers, tablets, whatever they may be. I will be in my office for office hours, at least until noon. That's that every week. What is that? If you came in late, make sure you email me, tell me you came in late. I could just write you down on the roster, but I'd like to have a paper trail, so to speak. Say it again.